Grace Abbott Homes was a nightmare in itself. It's the kind of place the police don't go, unless they absolutely have
to. The Cult of Gozer.
It's common for the residents to be robbed walking down the halls. It's the perfect setting for a real-life horror story that inspired many movies to come. But is it just this one-off event that inspired the movies, or was it about the overall horrors of living in these conditions? You be the judge and let me know what you think in the comments below. And also, if you could, please like and subscribe. Here's some backstory on Grace Abbott.
Grace Abbott Homes was the fourth of the ABLA housing projects on Chicago's Near West Side. This was a huge development with over 1,200 units, between two huge 33-story towers, with 7 smaller 15-story high-rises, with a total of over 750 units. This mass project started in 1952 and finished 3 years later in 1955. These complexes were built for African Americans only, as segregation was the normal practice at the time. As in most things, the start of Grace Abbott was calm and peaceful. At the outset, residents were screened before they could move in, keeping somewhat decent conditions, but that would soon change. By the mid-1960s, all the screenings were gone and it was on a first-come, first-served basis, leading to more unsavory types moving in.
Mama come down, swept his brains up right there. I saw that. See him shot all around the front there, everywhere. I see it all there. All out in the playground.
In the mid-1970s, increased crime, gang activity and budget shortfalls caused the housing authority to stop doing repairs and maintenance on the buildings. And of course, what comes with lack of maintenance is decay. This decay made it easy for criminal enterprises to take over the buildings with impunity. These buildings quickly became fortresses of crime and despair. During the 80s and the 90s, these complexes became violent war zones between rival gangs. Residents were attacked and harassed by drug addicts and gang members on a daily basis. It was just a fact of life living in the Grace Abbott homes at that time. This was accepted, as the residents had no other choice and nowhere to go. To add to these problems, cheap construction of the building led to shared walls that were only separated by 2 feet of space. These spaces were designed as access points for maintenance workers. The cheap construction also only put 6 nails that weakly held a medicine cabinet into the wall. Criminals figured out that you could take the medicine cabinets out of one apartment and access the other. This made a kind of maze, so one could quickly escape or hide if need be.
This perfect mixture of true-life horrors led to one of the creepiest movies ever made. Candyman. So now that you have some backstory, let's get to the actual murder that inspired the movie Candyman. On a brisk April evening in 1987, at Grace Abbott Homes housing projects, Ruthie Mae McCoy was in her apartment facing something that could only be described as horrifying. As Ruthie sitting in her 11th floor apartment at about 8:45 p.m., she calls police frantically. She then proceeds to tell the dispatcher her location, and tells the dispatcher in an ever-frantic voice. Some people next door are tearing the walls down. The dispatcher gets her to confirm what they are doing, and she gets an unintelligible response back, but the dispatcher has caught on to what's going on and then asked, "Ma'am, do they want to break in?" Ruthie replies with, "Yeah, they threw the cabinet down." Now recall, this is the cabinet with 6 nails holding it in. Imagine sitting in your apartment when all of a sudden you hear a noise in the walls. But not only do you hear noises, but it sounds like whatever it is trying to get in. Is it a human? Is it an animal? Is it something paranormal? What is it? You can see how this is a great inspiration for the horror movie Candyman. Well, Ruthie soon found out exactly what it was. As Ruthie proceeds to tell the police dispatcher that they can reach her bathroom, and they are coming through the medicine cabinet, the dispatcher reaffirms the address and Ruthie proceeds to tell the dispatcher, "The elevator is working." Why would Ruthie tell the dispatcher the elevator was working? The police were known to not climb the stairs if the elevator was broken. Another harsh reality of living in the projects. The dispatcher sends a patrol car to the call, but the call was not reported as a breaking and entering, but as a disturbance with the neighbor. This played a role in the time of police response, as it's not as high a priority as a occupied breaking and entering would be. Shortly after 9 p.m. dispatchers got another call about a woman hearing gunshots coming from Ruthie's apartment. A couple minutes later another call came in stating the same thing, multiple gunshots from Ruthie's apartment. Dispatch sends 2 more patrol cars over to Ruthie's apartment. They get there about 6 minutes after the last 911 call. The police proceed to knock on the door and announce their presence to no avail. The police ask dispatch to give Ruthie a call. While standing there they can hear the phone ringing. The police go to the project's main office to get a key. When the police come back with the key, it does not fit. This leaves police baffled on how to handle the situation. Should they just break the door down? They canvassed Ruthie's neighboring apartments to try to get a better scope on the situation, with some apartments being empty, and most of the residents, I'm sure, were not going to cooperate with the police. But one elderly lady did give some insight, telling police, "Ruthie always answers her door." Not being able to get into the apartment, police left for that evening. The next night one of Ruthie's few friends in the building called police and said she had not heard from Ruthie. Ruthie always stopped by on her way in and out of her apartment every day. But she had not stopped by at all that day, and the friend was concerned for her. Now 6 police officers and a handful of housing authority security try to make contact with Ruthie, but all attempts went unanswered. The discussion to break the door down was brought up, but quickly shot down due to the threat of being sued. Then the housing authority security proceed to tell the police if they break the door they have to fix it. Not wanting to deal with that, the police proceed to leave Ruthie's apartment for a second time in 2 days. By the next day Ruthie's friend is grown increasingly worried. So she calls the project office and tells them of her concerns, and she repeats the same thing she told the cops. Look, she comes by every day on her way in and out of the building, and this is the second day I have not seen her. Well, this raises enough alarm in the housing project office that they go to Ruthie's apartment and jimmy the lock. There they find Ruthie McCoy in a pool of dried blood. The apartment had been tossed and was in shambles. When police move the body for transport, they report the smell of rotting flesh overtaking the apartment. Ruthie McCoy had been shot 4 times and had died from internal bleeding. The autopsy stated that it was not an instant death, but doubts it lasted long. The police later reported that the killers came through the medicine cabinet from the empty apartment next door. The perfect inspiration for Candyman. So, is Candyman about this one event, or about the overall horrors of living in those conditions? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more awesome stories.